having me, Mike. First of all, a pleasure speaking to you again. My name is Inés Blenke. We know each other already a little bit for a while. I have been working in HR since 2009, have been working in different environments, international environments, different sizes of companies, and working for Plug since April 2021, and overseeing from an HR standpoint the regions for EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and APAC, Asia Pacific.
Great. Thanks very much for coming on, Inés. Obviously, I'm Mike, MD of Boss Energy. I know we've got a good relationship that kind of spans back quite a few years. So hopefully the insights that you'll give will kind of be a good spread, especially I think question 2 that touches on some of the post-pandemic work in the sector, which obviously you probably joined around that time. So I think we've got a series of kind of 4 questions and have a little bit of chat around those. So
yeah,
I guess the first question we always like to ask people are like, I think if you look at the industry as a whole, competition for talent is for that, especially the top talent, is quite fierce. I know, hydrogen talent can be used in the battery markets and likewise. So we always ask people like, without giving too much away, like what strategies are you adopting to deal with the competition for talent at the moment in the space?
Yeah, first and foremost for us as an organization, it's most important that we are looking for candidates that really are aligned with the purpose, with what we are doing, building a better future through the green energy in the market, right? This is the most important. And this comes along with passion and also the desire of changing something. We hear this a lot of times when having interviews with candidates that they say, I want to build a better future for my kids, for my family, and for those people that are around me. So this is something that we hear, and this aligns with what we are looking for in terms of candidates. We are very transparent with candidates in the recruitment process and very upfront in terms of what it is to work for Plug. And in terms of our culture, we are building a market and an industry that is a game-changing work. It's very, I would say, fast, changing fast, and it's agile. And therefore, we are also looking for candidates that are able and willing to take risks while working for Plug, and that really want to develop their capabilities and are excited to work for a challenging assignment. And at the end, also are flexible with all the changes that come along in the industry and in the organization. And in terms of Plug, I mean, we are a global environment where we can offer employees or candidates to work in a global and cross-functional environment that comes along with working very internationally and having different opportunities in terms of developing the careers with side assignments, with changes in the job that come along with the changes in the organization in order to adapt to the industry and what's needed on the market.
Definitely. I think that's particularly rings true, right? When you've got a candidate, sometimes a talent pool that comes from more traditional energy sectors, you're able to offer something that those more established players or businesses can't. And I think that's always been something that's been, widely attractive.
Yeah, and I think you also need to be excited about change and being flexible, right? To look left and right in order to go with the pace that is in the industry and the market.
Definitely. I think more so than ever at the moment, people that are flexible to change and understand that those markets are and can be quite not to say like volatile or like susceptible to changes in financial situations and things like that, and being able to see past that it's not a 1-2 year stint and it's a you're trying to change something for 2030 and 2050 and beyond, and that's kind of the goal of the business, which we definitely see.
Yeah.
Great. So I guess one of the points which is kind of quite, I think, really interesting with what you said before about kind of joining the company in 2021, right? So, I know you worked in some disruptive industries before you joined the hydrogen sector, but I think in a post-pandemic world, we've definitely seen this shift, right? Like the employee-employer relationship has changed. I know we've spoken about this countless times over the years, but like how are you finding, like how have you built sort of high performing remote teams while kind of keeping your company culture, your dynamic work environment that you've got as a technology innovator? Like how do you keep that culture while dealing with that like change in work from home, remote, that kind of employee relationship?
Yeah, for us, building the high performing team starts from the top. And we see this with the CEO that we are having with Andy Marsh, who conducts weekly all employee meetings. He does it every week. He's inviting all the employees to that meeting in order to keep the teams informed and engaged and up to speed on the business priorities and goals. It was implemented during the pandemic, but even after the pandemic, Andy Marsh kept that all employee meeting. And we are several years ahead of the pandemic now. And he still commits to having these meetings on a weekly basis to provide transparency and authenticity. And we feel this in the organization, that this is much appreciated in order to know what's going on in the organization. And this is a little bit then also independent from where you're located, because nowadays a lot of meetings take place online, right? So it doesn't need to be in person. In addition, we have clear communication in terms of our values and how we want to work together, so that the messaging is consistent and everyone can and should understand how we work as one team.
Yeah.
And we are fostering the culture in the organization, not only with the hybrid way of working, where sometimes it doesn't matter where you're located, but also promoting career flexibilities and stretch assignments in the organization, where we have people that through the assignments work with other teams together, connect a little bit more, get to know each other, build the network in the organization in order to help our employees to learn and grow further over time as well.
Yeah, I think people would certainly enjoy that flexibility, right? I mean, have you, I know this is kind of leading on from what we just like that question, but we're certainly finding that things are, like there's starting to be a shift of a higher demand of in-office work. Is that kind of something that you guys are leaning towards as you kind of as moved back and like kind of tested how it works for remote? Or do you still feel like that remote function, with what you're saying and the structures that you put in place, with someone like the CEO, a very influential person, being able to speak to and kind of connect with every single person, whether you're a technician or a vice president, right? Like, do you still feel like that hybrid working model is like really working for you? Or do you think perhaps it's, looking for people to migrate sort of back to office and back to that face-to-face relationship?
So at the end, I think it needs to work for the employees and for the organization. And sometimes it's a healthy mix, right? Some positions require to be in person, on site, or in the office, and some other positions probably require this a little bit less. But at the end, connecting with people also goes through meeting people in person and meeting colleagues in person. So we, of course, try to give the possibility to employees to meet in person and to see each other, at least from time to time, while there is no strict direction for asking everyone to go back to the office and to spend 5 days per week in the office. That's not what we're currently doing.
Yeah, I guess leading on from that a bit, and it's kind of an interesting point, because when you started in 21, like how did you streamline like the onboarding process and get people to buy into the culture when like what was there like a set process you guys used to kind of onboard someone and like make them feel like a Plug Power brand ambassador and like employee, or was it just quite natural and something that kind of came easily to the business?
I would say it's a little bit of both. Of course, we have a process that we have implemented globally for onboarding, but then also, we foster a little bit in terms of the managers to make sure they connect probably a little bit more with the new joiners, with the new employees that they're having. And we were also trying from HR side to connecting more with people, because there was not that much the possibility to meet in person. So it requires a little bit more proactive effort to make sure that the onboarding process can be smooth and successful.
Great. Did out of curiosity, like did any obviously people talk a lot about top-down approach, and that's how company culture kind of reaches every area of your business. But did you have to send any of the management team on like specific training? Was that kind of something that helped help with that? I think, anyway, from an engineering setting, when you're face to face in a lab or factory environment, all of a sudden being on teams can be quite different, and like managing people further away can be a little bit difficult. So I don't know if there was anything there that you kind of implemented from like a training perspective.
Yeah, we as an HR team have put together some tools that managers, specifically when doing onboarding for new employees, can use so that they have a little bit support, and have been accompanying the managers during the hiring process a little bit closer than probably companies usually do in a, let's say, non-pandemic situation, just to make sure that they have everything that they need, they feel supported, and to have a smooth onboarding and start for the employee in order to have this successful, because as we all know, the onboarding phase is critical for a successful hiring process at the end as well. So there was a lot of support and a lot of connection as well between the hiring managers and HR.
Definitely. And do you think that in the, like, if you balance everything out, and like obviously, hope to have moved away from discussing the impact of the pandemic on businesses, but I do think it's quite interesting because such an assumed company structure for such a long time was one way of doing things, and all of a sudden it opens people's eyes to different ways you could attract, retain talent, and like people became available to you that were never available to you before, and skill sets that you might, just because you were based in one location, you could never hire.
Yeah.
So do you think that now we're in a different, things have moved on, different company mindsets? Do you prefer, what would you prefer? And which do you think works better?
I think at the end, it's good that there is flexibility. Sometimes it helps to find the right candidate for the right position. But it also goes back to, for some positions, there's probably a little bit more flexibility, depending on what the responsibilities and the role is. And for some other positions, sometimes there is not that much flexibility. So it's a little bit the balance between one and the other, I think.
Case by case. Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. Sorry, I asked you a few more questions than I was supposed to on that one.
Oh, that's fine.
I just find it very interesting. But in terms of, I guess this is where it becomes super interesting. I think, especially with the hydrogen sector, right? Like the way that the projects are done are very similar. Like especially the hydrogen production projects are very similar to like other business lines and things like that. But and you can look at a CV, and there might be hundreds of the same CV, but which one, like in your first point, you kind of really talked about like someone that's got the get up and go, the drive to kind of, which kind of leads into it a little bit. But if you're obviously, employer of lots of people, you meet a lot of people and you interview a lot of people, but like what are the valuable skills that make transitioning to a business such as yours a success? And like, if you were going to give a bit of advice after that, like how do people promote that like acumen, if you want to call like climate change acumen, in their CV or in their like email they write to you to say, hey, consider me for the job?
Yeah. Well, I think at the end, there are so many skill sets that are valuable and can be valuable to organizations and to Plug as well. Two things that stand out for us are clearly innovation and creativity, or being creative. We really want employees to join candidates or people to join the organization, to observe in terms of how do we operate, and listen before they start contributing. So to understand really how the organization works, because I would say the base structure of organizations a lot of times is the same, but you also want to understand the specifics of the organization, right? And we are looking actually for candidates that join, that observe, that listen, try to understand, and then can also help with their creative idea and with their outside of the box thinking, and collaboration, and contribute in a valuable way to Plug. And beside this, I mean, as in every company, we want the employees to enjoy working for this organization, for Plug, right? And to work with their colleagues together. And at the end, I mean, since we are a growing organization, there is a lot of hands-on work needed. So we want candidates to really roll up their sleeves and get things done. I think that's important for us.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. And if I think when you just as you just touched on there, like that kind of listening element, I think, you know, if you're looking at, let's say you're looking at two CVs, right? And let's just take, I don't know, take a sales CV or a commercial manager, a regional manager. They've been working at, like, let's say, two really established industrial companies.
Yeah.
What are you looking for in those CVs? Like, are you looking for like how does one stand out from you from the other, that you know that person would be right for the job? Or is it more about talking to more people and rather than assessing what's on paper?
Well, you always have the hard skills and the soft skills, right? The hard skills you easily get from a CV in terms of, studies, background, years of experience, and so on. But then also it goes beyond, while getting to know a candidate that from a hard skill set fits to the position we are recruiting for.
Yeah.
And in terms of the other question that you asked when introducing the question, I mean, things like working hard and rolling up the sleeves in order to get work done and doing hands-on work. A lot of times this also can be transmitted in the conversation when giving examples where candidates have done this in the past, situations where it was needed to roll up the sleeves and to get things done, right?
Yeah.
To see
Okay.
what has been the responsibility the candidate has taken, what was the proactivity in that situation, and how did they get things done. This goes a little bit through examples as well to understand how they have approached this in the past and how they have been successful at that.
Okay. Oh, good. I like that tip. I think, yeah, knowing your best work and being able to showcase it in like a succinct, precise way when you're interviewing, and knowing what the target of the company you're working for always for us anyway, always goes down well when a candidate's able to do that. Definitely. And I think when you're looking at the soft skills, I mean, like, to use those two terms, which is really helpful. I mean, I think in engineering, particularly, if you've got, chem eng degree from a good university, you've obviously got the hard skills if you've then gone into traditional businesses. But without leading too much into it, like, how important are the soft skills for you as a business that's doing something different than traditional, to when you're kind of like bringing people in or assessing people at interview stage?
I think this is super important. And I mean, we see this on a lot of resumes and CVs that, candidates put on their highly motivated, solution oriented, and it's all good and nice to read. But at the end, you want to understand a little bit more what it means to them. And this goes through the conversation. So I think this is super important as well. We want people that want to work for this organization, that have a passion for what we are doing, and enjoy the work they are doing and with whom they are doing the work.
No, precisely. Yeah. I think more so than ever at the moment anyway. I think the soft skills we're finding and the people that we're working with are being tested more than ever at interview stage. And it's so important that people brush up on that and understand what they're going into in that meeting. Great, very useful tips there. Well, this is definitely last but not least, but I never understand why these questions end up on the last one. But we get asked this all the time, and whether it's you can point the finger at loads of places to work out why this has been the case, but traditional energy sectors typically have, in certain skill sets anyway, like a quite a poor DE&I record, in terms of like representation in teams and things like that. Like, I've always thought, and like customers we always work with think, and have the belief that renewable energy is also a way of, being more sustainable in the aspect of bringing people into the company, right? So it's difficult. I know in the US and different areas, like, these are written legally and it changes a bit, but is there anything you're able to share on like how you look at improving a DE&I record, or anything you do at, HR phase that helps finding talent, or, people getting people to access jobs that traditionally there's maybe poor representation in those areas?
Yeah, we have been integrating and continue to integrate DEI in many different areas of our business, from talent acquisition, employee engagement, but also up through to the executive leadership team. To give you two examples for employees, we have started to form employee resource groups. That's a platform where employees can connect, support one another, and promote inclusive workplace culture. I would like to highlight specifically two. One is for women, and the other one is for military service employees, which is a little bit more, let's say, a topic in the US. But women, we have this global employee resource group where we have different female employees and leaders included in there. And we have established target DEI metrics for our executive team, where we conduct regular reviews on diverse candidate hiring and attrition in order to make sure we give it the importance that it deserves. And I think we also have good examples in the organization where we have, in terms of diversity, if you look at gender, for example, high-level leaders in the position that are females as well, which is great to see. And specifically, there's one I can think of in the engineering area, and that's very impressive.
Yeah, that kind of mentorship and, showing a path forward to senior management and that sort of stuff is something that, we hear a lot. As a key, like the internal organization stuff and making sure that that's in place and set up is, paramount to the attraction piece, which is, more people from a diverse background applying for the jobs that you've got. So definitely see that. Great. Okay. I mean, anything else you'd like to add at all, or?
Maybe a little advertisement here. We have the Plug Symposium on the 13th of November. So if you're interested to learn a little bit more about our showcases, to hear a little bit more from the executive leadership team, I think that's a great opportunity. And if you want, I can share the link with you.
That'd be great. We'll make sure that's posted. And I think we enjoy that every year. So it'd be great to see the updates.